Welcome to this week's Capital University Basketball Podcast. I'm Sports Information Director Ryan Gasser, and I am here with the legendary Dixie Jeffers. Coach Jeffers, first of all, thanks for joining us here on this weekly podcast. We're bringing you guys in every other week just to catch up, and we got a little catching up to do as far as the first three games of the season. 1 and 2 start, not what you probably envisioned, but we want to hear your assessment of the first three games.
Well, I think there's never a good loss. But for us, I think they have been learning losses. I think we have grown as a team and as a whole from 1 to 15, no doubt, because we learn from our mistakes. I mean, you have to correct free throw shooting, which is very correctable. We've gotten better defensively. I think we were more cohesively doing a better job of taking care of the basketball. And then we go the second game when we miss free layups against a very talented Chicago team, and then bounce back and play a pretty good young Benedictine team and win pretty convincingly and play pretty well overall and play without Simone Gage, which is pretty huge at any time to win without your point guard.
All right. Well, you did mention that in the preview that you were getting deeper through some of the youth that you brought into the program. So I got to ask, what is the grooming process like to get them to a major contributing point?
Well, I'm on the couch a lot with my shrink here lately because we are young coming off the bench. So that breeds inconsistency. So we're trying to get our youth to be consistent from game to game. And we look at some of our kids that played extremely well against Chicago, who was a very talented up and down the floor type team, and then the next night out they didn't show up. So that's what makes you get gray hairs even more so, and we're trying to find the consistency, and we will find the consistency. We believe on a consistent basis right now we can go 8 deep. We would like to go to 9 to 10 to 11, and I think we'll get there by Christmas. And I'm patient with these kids because it's there and you can see it every day in practice and you can see glimpses of it in the game. We just have to grow up and find ourselves and find that leader on the floor, because Cookie Jurowski was that person for us, and she's no longer here.
Well, talking about growing up, now on the flip side of that, you have juniors and seniors. So for them, what's left to teach them, or what's the approach to help them get better?
There's always things to teach. It's about accepting the new role. Some of these kids haven't had to be the scorer. Now we're asking some kids, you have to be the main focus for us on the inside, or you have to be the main focus for us on the outside. Those kids haven't had to do those, and every year the roles change and the kids have to adapt, and it takes 4, 5, 6 games for the kids sometimes to understand those roles and to accept those roles and to step up into bigger shoes.
So what process actually is a longer process, grooming the youth or teaching the experienced veterans?
You know what? Ask me on a certain day and I'll tell you it's the youth. On the next day it could be my upperclassmen. It's a work in progress. These kids work hard. They give me everything they have. It's not that we haven't played hard in the last 3 games out, because we played extremely hard. We just need to be a little bit more poised and a little bit more patient and execute in a quarter-court game a little bit better when we have to.
Now, the first 3 games, and you got a couple more coming up, are all non-conference. Those aren't meaningless games. Those are certainly teachable games. But how have you told the young ladies that these games do have meaning, even though they don't really contribute in the conference standings?
Well, for us, every game is a game that you want to win, because from a regional value point, you need to win games. So every game is that important to us. And we teach in our program that every game that we play, whether it's non-conference or it's conference, that's our national championship game. And we want to get hyped up, and we want to go out and play with the energy, and we want to play with it and win it, because it has value. If you don't win out in your conference, or something doesn't happen, you still have an opportunity with a 20-game plus season. So those games are very, very important, and they're for bragging rights too. And that's what's going to give you some self-confidence to get better as a team is with the W's.
This is head coach Dixie Jeffers of the women's basketball team. And coach, now we need to get to know the freshmen a little bit more. So I'm going to ask you a few things that might incriminate them a little bit, but we'll try not to. Of your freshman class, who do you think is the most studious of them all?
That is good. Melissa Bierman. I think she's, we have a lot of kids that are really studious, and Annika Watchman's very studious. But I would say one of those 2 kids is my most studious.
And now, who's the most humorous?
Without a doubt, I have 2. That would be Meredith Opie's and Chelsea Plow. And if I could go back to college again, I'd want to go with those two because they're the funniest kids I've been around. And they're very, very lively, and something's going on at all times, but they're very funny, and the kids would tell you too, they're the funniest kids on the team.
So tell the TV broadcasters when they come in, keep a camera on those two, huh?
Definitely, because something's always going on.
Who's the most hardest working?
As a lot, they all are. It's very difficult to tell you that Chelsea Plow comes to practice every day and just works her tail off. Emily Moran works very, very hard. If I had to pick two, those would be the two that I would pick, and Meredith works very hard.
Okay, and the last one about this freshman class, who is the most intriguing, be it by their personality or by their style of play?
Annika Watchman's very intriguing for me because she is a quiet, self-assured young woman that I'm not quite sure where she's always coming from, but if I ask her a direct question, it's always a firm yes, I'm in control, I can do this, let's go. So I find her very intriguing.
I think that sounds like a young Dixie Jeffers, if I'm not mistaken.
You know what? That'd be okay with me too, because as a coach, you better like yourself, and you're going to go crazy throughout the year.
Well, we'll make sure that we have the watch out on her over her 4-year career, that's for sure. So now, your first 3 games were all on the road, and you got some more coming up here. Before the big stretch of home games, we want to ask you, what's your favorite part as a coach about the road trips that happen every year?
You know, I think being on the first trip, we're going over to Indiana, and we're going in vans, and just being with the kids and feeling that dynamic again. At one point during the trip, I said, there is no other place I'd rather be. And I can't imagine being anyplace else other than being on a road game, playing, and coaching at Capital University, because I do enjoy what I do. And I just enjoy the interaction of the kids and to hear the funny jokes and the sense of humor and just a lot of interaction. And there's always something that's always memorable from the trip. And believe me, this past weekend didn't go without a memorable time.
I was going to say, is it because of those 2 freshmen we pointed out earlier?
Actually, Coach Jeffers pulled this one, and both vans were texting back and forth very quickly. So they thought it was pretty funny. Coach Jeffers didn't think it was as funny, but it was a joke on Coach Jeffers.
Well, I'm sure that all of our women's basketball players out there, they're getting the inside joke that I'm not getting. So.
Trust me, they got the joke.
Last question, Coach. It's obviously the holiday season, and so Thanksgiving's right around the corner. Do you have any special Turkey Day plans or memories or traditions that happen in the Jeffers household?
Well, we always get together as a family, and I'll have my mother with me again this year, and that's always special because she's getting up there in years and so forth. So we always say our blessings and our thanks for the opportunities that was been bestowed us as a family, and the blessings of our health. And the opportunity to be together and laugh together and to love together is always wonderful. And it's just a much needed break at this time for our kids, for our coaching staff, and to be able to come back after Thanksgiving and to get ready to tie up the shoes really tight and to go for a tough OAC race again.
All right, well, this has been our weekly basketball podcast. This week we were blessed to have Dixie Jeffers with us on this show. Make sure that you are tuning in next week as we bring back head coach Damon Goodwin of the men's basketball team. And in the meantime, Coach, happy Thanksgiving to you, and good luck in your upcoming games, both here at the Cap Center and on the road.
And as always, Ryan, it's always a pleasure. And as you keep calling me legendary, I keep feeling like a fossil, an aging rock or something. So it's always a blast. And I wish everybody that's watching this podcast much, much love and time with your family, and count your blessings every day.
Well, just remember, if you're a How I Met Your Mother fan, Barney Stinson, not an old guy, but he is legend. Wait for it, Derry. As is this podcast. Thanks for joining us once again. I'm Ryan Gasser, the Sports Information Director for Dixie Jeffers, the head coach of the women's basketball team. Thanks again for joining us.